Hey, family, welcome to episode 17 of My Enrolled Agent Career. Tonight, we're going to leave the East Coast because we've been over there for a while and we're going to head to Philly. Now, before I get into who my guest is, it was brought to my attention that I haven't been introducing myself. Now, if you're watching, I think that you can see what my name is on my shirt, but if you're just listening, I apologize. My name is Timalyn Bowens, and I am America's favorite EA, your host of My Enrolled Agent Career. And tonight, with my guest in Philly, I am interested in you all meeting him because one of the things I noticed when I first met him online, maybe 5-ish years ago, was the heart that he has for taxpayers. I don't know if you've noticed lately, but there are a lot of people who are out here only to make money and they don't care about the taxpayer. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to make money, but caring for the taxpayer is important as well. This person is a member of the award winning EA Journal's board. They're also a former contributor to the EA Journal magazine. This person has also been voted as Philadelphia's favorite tax preparer, not once, but twice. In 2024, they received the gold, and in 2025, they also were awarded with the bronze. So I don't say this lightly when I say that this person does taxes very well. Without any further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Desmond Hudson to the podcast.
Hey, it's a very
Hi.
nice intro to me.
Well, Desmond, as my daughter reminds people, I don't say things that I don't mean.
And I do taxes very well, so that was very good. I like how you did that. I see what you did
See?
there.
Well, I appreciate you making time to be here on the show. Like I said, I appreciate the heart that you have for the taxpayer and a little bit jealous of the life you've built for yourself as an enrolled agent. So we'll get into that a little bit more. But I really appreciate you being on here with me tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm actually honored to be on your show. I kind of secretly follow you, so it's kind of cool that I get to be on your show. So thank you, and I appreciate you inviting me up.
You are welcome. Well, the first question that I ask everyone who joins me on this platform is how did you find out about the enrolled agent designation and what made you decide to sit for the exam?
So, so I don't know if you remember the RTRP. Do you remember that? The return
I
tax.
do remember that.
So when I started, I've been in business probably since 2008. I've been doing taxes for since college. When I started out in doing taxes, like when I say officially, and I can talk more about some other things, but when I officially started, I wanted something to just solidify that I'm not your everyday tax preparer. And at the time, that RTRP thing was kind of what I knew. I didn't even really know about the enroll agent thing.
Mhm.
So I kind of did the RTRP, and I was like, Desmond Hudson RTRP was like on the back of my name. And they went away from it, right? And I was like, well, that was fast or whatever. And then I started kind of diving more into like, how do I distinguish myself to be a little bit different from just your everyday tax preparer? And that's when I kind of came across the sea and like I want to take this exam and become an enroll agent. And I sat for exam and actually failed the business part because I was really good with the individual, which
Mhm.
is part one, and part three was kind of more representation and understanding ethics and all that other stuff. And I was very ethical, whatever. So I was good with that as well. But the business part, I've never touched business taxes, and that was like a struggle for me. And I wound up taking it twice, and I passed it on the next time go around. But it just was a designation that I just really wanted to distinguish myself from just the everyday tax preparer. And once I got it, it kind of helped build my confidence within the business. And um, as you know, when you're an enrolled agent, you have to know this stuff, right? So I kind of had to learn and take classes and go to conferences. And I just kind of like started to really live and breathe taxes. And it felt good. So that's kind of what it was, more or less of just being, I don't want to be the everyday tax preparer. And that's what made me become an enrolled agent. And I'm very happy that I did it.
Cool. You bring up the RTRP. I completely forgot about that. That was like when I was coming in, and that should have been not necessarily a red flag, but that was the foreshadowing of the IRS can take stuff and it's here today,
Right.
gone
And it's
tomorrow.
gone. That part. Yeah.
So you made a distinction between when you started business, when you officially started. So, like, what was your first introduction to the tax industry? You mentioned, I believe, in college.
Yeah, so I was in NABA, National Association of Black Accountants, for those who don't know. And they did tax stuff. So that was kind of my introduction to taxes. And you know, I'm part of something called VITA, which is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistant program. And I've been with that for a very, very long time. And like back when NABA, I did a little bit, but I really didn't get really into it until I would say the early 2000s. I would say I really got into VITA. I worked for a nonprofit organization called Reinvestment Fund for 20 plus years. And they had like a workforce um, arm, I should say. And in that workforce arm, they were going out and helping childcare providers get their taxes done for like their parents. So they kind of partnered up with this organization called the Campaign for Working Families. And they had this VITA arm to it. And to basically be able to go out and do taxes, you have to pass a certification underneath the VITA program. And I really, really fell in love with it. Just helping the everyday people, making sure they wasn't being taken advantage of. Like I'm a really big stickler about people that get the loans. Like a lot of folks were like going
Mm-hmm.
out getting loans and getting advances on their refunds and paying these exuberant fees. And VITA was like this feel good space to where I can help people get their taxes done, and do them right, and do it for free, right? So, and it was people that are low income that really needed the money, like getting a refund kind of like pays their rent for a year. Like some of those folks were really struggling. So it was important for me to kind of be in that space. So VITA was really my introductory into taxes to kind of go to another level. Like before it was just more a hobbyish and something to do. But when I really got involved in VITA, I really, really fell in love with it. And I was like, I want to do this for myself. Um, and and at a certain point, it was like, I can be VITA. And when I say I can be VITA, I can be a quality, good service person for low price, but I didn't want to be at the VITA level. Like VITA at the time might have been
Mm-hmm.
$50,000 and under. So I started to target clients that made more than that couldn't qualify for VITA, but didn't have enough money to go and get a lawyer or a CPA or whatever. And I was in that niche. So I was like the cheap, good quality tax preparer that I wasn't an EA at the time, but I knew from my training and VITA and the certification that I passed, I still thought I knew taxes very well, right? So I was like, I know how to stick in my niche, and I actually still do that. I know what I know, and I know what I know very well, and I kind of stick in that space. So even back then, I knew with child tax credit and dependents and exemptions, like I knew that like the back of my hand, and I was able to service clients that kind of fit that model.
Awesome. So you may not remember this when I connected with you online. And the first time I was ever in like a Zoom setting with you, the way you just lit up talking about VITA is the Desmond that I met because I think it was like it had to have been either the end of a year or the very beginning because you were looking for volunteers for VITA
Mhm.
and you were doing a training. And I
Yeah,
remember you being like so excited. And so I came from public accounting, and when you're learning the very basics,
right,
nobody is excited about teaching individual taxation. I had a tax lawyer who was getting ready to retire, who taught my tax classes in college. I enjoyed him because I enjoyed the material, but he wasn't excited about it. So, like, you
right,
were really excited. You were sharing the impact that this could like have on the different taxpayers' lives and how they depend on this. And I was like, wow, like he really cares about the taxpayer.
right, right. No, I
So,
do. I do. And it carries on to what I do now. Like I think I am a really good tax preparer, but I also am like passionate about my clients. And I think I provide a lot of services that a lot of providers, a lot of taxpayers may not do, but I just do it naturally because I just care. And I mean, VITA, I mean, there's a lot of people that are struggling financially. And when
mhm,
it's tax time, it's such an important time for them. And that's really when the wolves come out too, right? Because they know these refunds are coming out and they charge them so much money. They do these advanced loans. And quite frankly, they do the taxes wrong, right? Because they're so focused on getting a refund. One of my mottos is get your taxes done right, not for a refund, right? Because people try to make up Schedule C's or add
yeah.
these children. And while they're helping this person get a nice refund, 2 years later, when they get this nasty letter from the IRS and they got to repay that back, it just creates this, this circle of like now I'm in the bottom and now I don't get no more refunds and it's going to these back taxes and fees and penalties. And I've seen it over and over and over again because the taxpayer doesn't really know. They just want a refund. They don't care how it comes about,
Yeah.
and nobody thinks they're going to get caught until they get caught, right? So with VITA, we have this really strict guidelines. Everything is by the book, and I think it just gave me a really good learning on when I started my own business. This is the foundation that I'm going to use for my business to be ethical, to make sure that I'm treating everybody right, to not take advantage of folks. And I mean, my fees are higher than what they were when I started, but I started off just being so cost conscious and affordable, I would say, for people. And I still think I'm affordable in a sense, but I definitely charge them. And I think becoming a enrolled agent gave me more confidence. And you're getting a lot more from me than you're getting from just that everyday tax preparer. So I my fee represents that as well. So, but
Which
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
So with that, we kind of have an idea of like the picture of your ethical foundation coming from VITA. How was that transition for you though, moving from VITA to starting your own firm? And just to be clear, you still work with VITA in a
I
different
do.
capacity.
I do. I do.
But what was that like to transition from VITA to Hudson Tax Service?
Uh it was so the ethical piece, right? So because I still work with VITA, I had this mindset of I don't want to take VITA clients, right? So when Hudson Tax Service started, I did when I because I kind of announced to people, hey, I'm starting my own business. And people that knew me, like, oh, Desmond's a good dude and he's not going to do your taxes wrong, right? So people started to come to me. And as I'm doing people taxes, I'm having this conflict of like, this person can actually go get their taxes done for free, right? So I started to get a lot of clients that was in that space. And I was telling them, I was very transparent. I'm actually transparent to this day. I have I'm just like going off like script, whatever. But right now, like if you become a client, I send you this document and this is a cognito form. And on the first page, it tells you who I am, what my fee range are. And if you can't afford me, you may want to go to VITA. And I actually give them a link to where to go to VITA and you can get your taxes done for free or whatever. So I say all that to say in the beginning, I was like, I can't help you because not that I can't help you, I don't want to help you because there's somewhere you can go to get your taxes done for free. And some people just said, I don't care. I will pay you to do your taxes. I don't want to go somewhere free. So I had to get over that. Like, okay, I'll
Mhm.
take the payment, but there are free services for you. So that kind of how I started. So a lot of my clients was in between VITA and non-VITA. And as I grew, I kind of purposefully didn't market to like folks that were in VITA. Or I was really more steadfast of saying, you know what, you get your taxes done free. Go talk to this person. I know them. Or like I really, really pushed people away that was in VITA. And I started to try to get some of the higher income clients that need a little bit more than just dependents and stuff. They had some backdoor offs and more going on. So that's kind of more of my clientele now. But I think that switch, it was a struggle because I was charging very low. I was so conscious about what I charged someone because I didn't want to overcharge someone. But
Mhm.
in hindsight, it was horrible for business, right? It wasn't a business model to be sustainable. But at the same time, I had a 9 to 5, right? So I worked for, like I was saying earlier, a nonprofit called Reinvestment Fund for I worked there from 2000 until 2022. My business started in 2008. So I kind of had this, my tax was
Wow.
like supplemental income, right? So I really didn't look at it as a thing of like, I need to overcharge people. I had a pretty decent job that I didn't have to overcharge someone to live, right? So it was kind of, I had that as a way to keep my fees down. And then as I got more seasoned, became an enrolled agent, understood more, took more classes, understood the market, I realized that I was doing a disservice to the industry by charging a certain amount because I am not just the everyday tax preparer, right? So my fees structure changed a little bit, and then I quit my job, right? And I was like, well, this is my bread and butter. So then that really shifted my mindset to say, well, I can't charge $100 no more and still be sustainable. So my fees definitely changed. So, but I think VITA has just was powerful for me. I think it gave me just a great foundation of understanding some of the really basics of taxes that I think people look over. Just the filing status sounds simple and dependency sounds simple, and understanding credits and non-refundable versus refundable. Like I know
Mhm.
that stuff so well. And it helps me explain to a client why you got a refund or why you didn't get a refund. And I can literally walk line by line through the 1040 and explain to someone why their results are what their results and what you can do to change it. And I think VITA just gave me that foundation to truly understand how the 1040 works and things like that. So it was an interesting transition that took a long time for me to shift to I'm a real business, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It was like taxes was a side thing. And until I stopped thinking of it as a side job, once I started thinking this is a real business and took it serious, that's when I kind of like quit my job and I was like, this is this is a sustainable thing. It actually started to grow and got in the way of my 9 to 5. And it was like, I need to start treating this business like a real business, so I can live the life that I live now. But it definitely it panned out very well. It worked out for me, but it took some time to get there. I would say that.
So you mentioned something. You just mentioned like it was getting in the way of your 9 to 5. You started your tax business in 2008, and you said you didn't leave the nonprofit till
22
2022.
took a very long time to make that jump. And I was scared. Like it was like the business was growing and growing and growing. And it was like at a certain point, I'm like, I have to make a decision. Do I quit this 9 to 5 job that I know I got health insurance and I have steady income coming in?
Yeah.
And do I do this business? And quite frankly, COVID probably was the best thing for me.
Mm.
When COVID happened, it was really a time like everybody was home, right? So when I'm home doing, I'm right oversharing right now, but when I'm home and you're working for a company and you got a tax business, my company started to get in way of tax business, and I was sitting there like, I'm making a lot of money just doing taxes, and I'm
especially during COVID.
working as 9 to 5, and I'm like, so when COVID started to kind of die down, you get to 21 and 22, you're sitting there like, hey, we want you to come back to work. And I'm like, I don't think I want to come back to work. You know what I mean? I'm like, my business is doing very well. And I'm like, I really don't have to. And quite honestly, like my bills were paid. I paid off my mortgage, paid off my car. Like I was doing very well. And I think I was at a point where I really didn't need the extra income, right? So I was able to remove the expense in my life, right? Where I didn't have a mortgage and car notes, and my kids were out of. I wouldn't say they graduated. One of my kids didn't graduate, but she went and started her own career working on cruise ships, and my other daughter graduated from college, but they were good, right? So it was kind of like I don't need all of this extra money no more. So I was like, you know what? I'll just stick with my business and take the risk. And went for it. So it took some time to get there. But I think COVID for me was a blessing. It kind of gave you that time to be alone and think about what you want to do with your life. I think if COVID didn't have it happen, I would probably still be working a 9 to 5 and doing taxes on the side. So it worked
So
out.
you answered my next question because I was going to ask you, like, what did you have to think about to like make the leap to doing it full time? But for you, God was like, "Here's COVID," and you were like,
Yep.
"Yeah."
COVID did it. Yep, the math was in math, and then COVID was like, because I mean, as you know, COVID wasn't a bad thing for tax preparers, right? There was a lot of tax law changes and credits being thrown around, and these refunds and rebates, and there was a lot going on that we needed to understand. And my clientele kind of jumped from that just to get the exposure of all the different changes in tax law. You know, people were looking for some professionals to do their taxes. So COVID was not a bad thing, I would say, for most tax preparers that was in the space doing it how they're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity. Not that it was a purposeful opportunity, but my clientele really jumped. And like I said, it just started to get away of my day job, and I was like, I don't gotta do this no more. And they were asking people to come back to work. I'm like, I really don't have to go back to work. And it was pulling the trigger that was just awkward because I had a great relationship. And I actually still work with my 9 to 5. I'm a contractor. And I work as a financial analyst for a childcare provider. So I still provide, which is kind of the work that I did before I left. So I still kind of support them in a manner that I used to support them, but it's on my terms. I'm a
Mhm.
contractor, you know how that contract works. I tell you when my availability is, and it works out. So I did not burn that bridge, and I still worked on. Literally had a really good meeting with them yesterday about a whole new cohort that we're going to be supporting. But I didn't, I don't gotta get up and go to work every day, and which is a good thing. So it's been a blessing.
So I'm glad you brought that up with the law changes. As we are recording this, the one, make sure I say it right, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was passed a couple of months ago. And in this same year,
Yeah,
we have seen the IRS go from what, 110,000 employees down to 70,000 something.
right. And
We
7 different people heading it up.
7 different IRS commissioners. I don't foresee us like having to stay at home, but this upcoming tax season is going to be very, very interesting.
It is. It is. And I actually sent out a newsletter, 2 days ago, about some of the highlights around the OB3, whatever we're going to start calling this thing. But it is a lot. And as you know, like one of the things we heard recently, it was about the W-2s may not be ready for overtime, and the reporting requirements for employers is going to be not as stringent until like 2026. So how do you got this overtime deduction thing, but how do you even know what your overtime is? So in my newsletter, I kind of told folks, there's a lot of information in here. Don't worry about it. I understand it. But one thing I want you to do is hold on to your pay stubs, right? Especially if you're doing overtime, because I'm going to need that to make sure you get that $25,000 deduction, whatever it all works out to be. But I don't think that's going to show up on the W-2s like it should. I think the tip's going to be okay because that's kind of already reported. But I'm really concerned about how this overtime is going to be reported, especially because the IRS said they're not holding the employers accountable for reporting it for 25. So this is going to be an interesting year. And this is another time where these rogue tax preparers really don't know how to work that space, right? So
Right.
they're going to be doing stuff and messing up people's taxes because, oh, you get a break. So everybody's going to get this 25,000 deduction when it doesn't work that way. And you got to understand, is it all the overtime? Is it the dollar amount over your regular pay? Like, you have to understand that. And I'm worried about a lot of taxpayers this year. And I sent the post yesterday, like, this is not the year to let your cousin do your taxes. It really isn't. This is the year you want to seek professional help, because it's tricky. It's a little bit tricky this year. So
Yeah, no offense to your nephew Tommy, but you
yeah,
might want to go get a pro to take care of it, because
this year.
like you said, the max of the deduction is 25,000, but not everybody's going to get the 25,000 if they're not married filing jointly. And then
Exactly.
if you've actually read through the bill, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I've seen people where they very clearly ran it through whatever GPT, and like as I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, I was in a page 4 class and this is like obviously wrong.
Right. Right.
So even with that, like as preparers, we have to do our due diligence, but because we've been seeing all the stuff about Shadura Sanders and the quote, when preparation meets opportunity, like this is prime time for the people who are doing individual returns, where the preparation and being educated and understanding how that works,
Yep.
that opportunity is coming. Because
And not to bring back VITA, but that's one of the things I love about VITA is because part of my roles in VITA, I am I designed the curriculum for VITA. So I create the curriculum. I have like maybe 8 teachers. So I train all the instructors. We train thousands and thousands of volunteers. We go to colleges. I do all the colleges. And I say all of this to say is I have to know this stuff, right? So with VITA, it is another space where I have to master this thing to teach everyday people how to do taxes, because we hire, I shouldn't say hire, we have volunteers that go out and do people taxes, and I have to explain it to them where it's digestible, right? So we know this stuff because we live and breathe it. I'm getting a volunteer to just never even touch taxes in their life, and I need to make sure they understand head of household, right? And understand if somebody leaves in the last 6 months of the year, and if they're married filing separately, they don't have to file that way because of certain things that happens. So now I got to talk about how the tips are going to work, and how the deductions with overtime is going to work, and what does overtime actually mean, and what documents am I going to need to actually get the overtime. So I have to really dive into this and really get it and understand it. And VITA, I'm like giving a plug for VITA. VITA is because I do the curriculum. These people are going to know how to do low income people taxes, right? And do the
Yes.
right. And it's part of my job to make sure that I'm educating, to make sure that people that are going to do these taxes know the actual rules and get certified the right way. And I take that information into my own tax firm, right? And I know it very well. And I'm making sure that my clients are being taken care of and getting the right benefits and deductions and above the line, below the line. You know what I mean? How it all works out.
Yeah.
To make sure it's all done correctly, because it's a lot. And that bill is there's a lot in that bill. So like you said, this is an opportune time for tax professionals to really hone their skills and to show off, because I don't think rogue taxpayers are going to get it, and they're just going to be
Mm-mm.
doing a lot of bad stuff, and there's going to be a lot of audits. And I don't do as much representation, but I know you do, and I know that's going to be a good business for people to do representation. But it's just sad, right? That you're going to be a lot of folks that's out there doing shady stuff, thinking they know it or relying on their software, and it's just not the way to go about it. So
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of unnecessary, avoidable
yeah,
mess. Yeah, and probably like you mentioned, with people creating fake Schedule C's and stuff,
yeah.
the people that are going to get hurt are the people who really need the refund.
Yes, yes. Imagine all the fake tips and overtime that's going to be made up so people can get these deductions, and it just doesn't work that way.
Mm.
And the other, well, I'm going too deep, but some of that stuff is going to take you out of earned income credit, because, as we know, some of that stuff is a below the line deduction. So you're pushing up somebody's income to give them a deduction, but you also may push them out of some earned income credit. So it's a lot going on in there that people need to really be mindful of what they're doing. They're thinking of helping someone, and he actually may be hurting them.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I was laughing to myself. You all, I give this disclaimer. Desmond does do taxes very well, but he is a very humble individual. So wanting to highlight him and find things to highlight, like I knew his involvement, part of his involvement with VITA, that he trains. He just dropped like it was no big deal that he's writing the curriculum. Okay. Okay, Desmond. That's that's not a biggie or anything. And for those of you who have worked with VITA and like how robust that curriculum is, that's
Oh
a
yeah.
huge deal. So most definitely thank you for the work you're doing with that, because there are so many people interested in the industry. You're helping them to get good education to lead to their hands-on experience. And then, as you mentioned, the taxpayers who can afford to
Mm,
have somebody prepare, but they still deserve their taxes to be done right as well. So
they do.
you're making an impact all across the board, but not interesting. In your words, not mine. So, with you being so big on making sure that, taxes are done correctly, people are being taken care of, you mentioned taking classes and going to conferences. Like, how do you pick the right classes and conferences to make sure that the
Mm.
tax law and you're understanding it?
It's a great question. Because I struggle with that actually. That's a really great question. I try to find, um like I was saying earlier, my niche has changed, and I'm not dealing with as many as low income tax preparers, and I'm dealing with people that are a little bit have a lot more going on. So I got people that got RSUs and backdoor Roths, or like more challenging things going on. So I try to find classes that are in that space, right? So I recently took a class about restrictor stock units, and like I wanted to understand more about some of the clientele that I was getting in, to make sure that I'm servicing them right. Like some of the stuff I can read and understand and figure it out, but I wanted to
Mhm.
just have I want to master it, right? I want to better understand. It's like I understand what a non-refundable credit is and what a refundable credit. I want to understand what happens with these ISOs and RSUs, and you start dealing with like trying to help people get solo 401ks, and how does this all come together, right? So I pick stuff that I come across, if that makes sense, things that I'm starting to get more of, and I want to make sure that I understand it. I think the other thing is I try to look at where I want to go next, right? So I want to get more into like S corporations and business taxes, and hone that skill. So now I find myself trying to take a class to understand business entity types, and what does it mean about an S corp. I was just actually looking at something recently about unreimbursed expenses and making sure you have an accountability plan underneath your S corporation so you can reimburse yourself, because if you don't do that, that expenses is not allowed. Like things like that to make sure that I am advising a client to do certain amount of things to make sure that you're getting the right type of benefit. So I look for classes that's going to, one, improve a skill that I have, and two, help me grow in the direction that I'm looking at growing. So I those are my choices. But I also would pick like a class on injured spouse that I know very well, but to make sure that it nothing changed, right? Like make sure I understand. Like, so those are things that I might pick up on. Like I like to do a divorce class. Sometimes you got clients that are divorced, and to make sure that the assets are being split correctly. And there's just could be some new things that I'm not aware of. States, right? I try to look for state courses. I know the tri-state area, but if I'm doing Milwaukee, right, it's kind of like, well, I don't know all about Milwaukee, so I may like dive into some classes where I'm getting more clientele from. So yeah, I look at things that are going to enhance what I'm already doing or advance me to a different area, because I think I do a lot of individual tax prep, and part of my goals is to do less of that and do more businesses. So I'm starting to get into a little bit more business entities and seeing how businesses work, and learn a little bit more on that. And some stuff I just go because it's fun, right? So there we like the NAEA Tax Summit was in Utah. Let me back up. Location matters, right? So if there's a conference in Utah, I've never been to Utah, right? So it's kind of like if the classes and the agenda seems pretty decent, and I know NAEA does an awesome summit. That's a good time to, I like to travel. I can go see Utah, right? And I can
Mhm.
learn at the same time, and I can write it off, right? Right? So I can write off a trip to Utah for a conference that I'm going to go to. So location matters as well. Outside of just wanting to learn the information, location is part of it as well.
So you brought up two things there. One of them, I'm glad that you mentioned the state education.
Yes.
Um, because one, I say this often, like just because you get the EA license doesn't mean you know what to do as far as representation. And you being a dad of adult children, you know that when your children got their driver's license, they didn't automatically just
Right.
know how to drive and they were perfect drivers. I have been in different classes with people, or here, UK does a seminar every year, and they have CE for EAs, CPE for CPAs, but they also do state stuff. And I'll see people get up and leave, and they're like, "Oh, we don't get credit for that." And I'm like, "But we
We need you.
live here." So just you highlighting that, like, sometimes you have to go above and beyond even if you don't get the credit, because yes, we have federal license. We
Mhm.
can prepare taxes for any state except Oregon. We're gonna
Right.
get you Oregon. But we shouldn't go in there blindly and ignorant and not understand the tax laws for the client that we're serving.
And they're
So
tough. Like California and New York and Ohio, like some of these states are challenging, and you do need to really know what's going on before you start touching these taxes. You think the federal is done right, but the state may not have the same type of expenses that you can take or credits that you can take, and it just doesn't flow down pretty.
mhm.
And I'm in Philadelphia, and I mean, we're talking about states. There's also local, right? So Philadelphia have a local mess that is different from the state and federal. So I actually inherit a lot of clients from all over America, actually, that says, "Hey, I have a property in Philadelphia, and I got a nasty letter," because it has nothing to do with the state, it has nothing to do with federal. The local tax wants their BERT, their MPT, and it's like, what is this? I unfortunately know about it because I live in Pennsylvania, or I live in Philadelphia. But if you don't live in Philadelphia and you're just doing somebody taxes in Pennsylvania, and you live in Washington or whatever, you don't know that there may be a local tax obligation. We got Berkheimer. It's like this whole locality is crazy when it comes to local taxes. So it can go deep. So not only state, there's a local thing that I know Ohio has this local thing that is just crazy.
Yeah.
And I try to avoid, quite honestly. Like I said early on, I try to stay in my lane. And if I got an Ohio client, I try to reach out to a colleague that lives in Ohio and say, hey, can you help me out with this? Or can you take this client? Because I know you have more information about what's going on with the local taxes. So it can be tricky.
Yeah, for sure. We have some localities do taxes here. Ohio's nasty, so Ohio's in between me and you.
Yes, Ohio
But
is
yeah,
nasty work.
very nasty.
Nasty work.
The other thing that you brought up, we'll call it destination education. So taxes are out here. Tax preps kind of being sold like an MLM. EA representations kind of being sold now is like get rich quick because you can charge all this money for cases. But you mentioned you don't do a lot of representation work, but you still like to travel and have destination education. So, how were you able to build a firm where you can do that without doing a lot of representation work? And by not a lot, I'll clarify. Desmond does very, very, very
I do little.
little.
I mean, I do some installment payment plans, and I mean, I know how to release the lien and levies and get you compliant, and first time abatements. I've not dived as deeper as like offering compromises and things like that, but I am what I guess the industry would call a volume tax preparer. And I do a lot of taxes very well, but I do a lot of them, right? So I'm I do a lot of taxes. So during the 3 months of tax season, I'm working like 16-hour days, and like I do it. I lay my head down, get back up, and I continue on. I use a system called TaxStone, which I think you're familiar with, which
Mhm.
is kind of like my secretary and allows me to do these volume of clients. So I kind of really I mean, representation is definitely a space to make money, but my space is tax preparation, and I do a large volume of clients, and it's just me, right? So I don't have any employees. TaxDome is my employee, right? It really helps automate a lot of the systems I got going in place, and I wouldn't have actually grown to where I am without it. Because it just kind of automates everything, and I don't touch a tax return until it goes through 4 steps. And it just helps me out dramatically. But it's more volume. I kind of do what I need to do to make enough money during that 3 months to sustain myself. And I'm not one of those. I said one of those as if it's a bad thing, but I am very cost conscious, right? So I am not somebody that needs nice clothes and all this other stuff. I live a very simple life. I've been fortunate enough to kind of pay down my mortgage and not have car notes and have older kids that are sustainable. So I don't have the need for money as much as the everyday person, I would say. So I survive. I'm good, and I like to travel. So my money goes to traveling, right? So I like to hit up countries and take off for like 3 months and go somewhere. Like that's where my money goes, right? So I love to just be in other countries and enjoy other people's culture. So I think that's my big expense is travel. Because I don't have other expenses, right? So I kind of guess I still do have an expense, but my 3 months of taxes provides a life where I can kind of work those 3 months and take off the rest of the year. But I still do contract work. So VITA is contract work. The work with Reinvestment Fund is contract work. There's another company called PHMC. But all of these are like nonprofit organizations that is surrounded about helping communities, helping businesses. So it's all in that same taste. Like I've had this nonprofit soul, right? So with VITA, with Reinvestment Fund, with Campaign for Working Family, all of these are nonprofit organizations that are mission is to either improve blight within distressed areas, building schools, helping working families, providing free tax preparation services, helping childcare providers understand their financials better and expand, and like all the work that I do is related to helping people. So in my business, I do the same thing. I just charge for it, right? I just charge a little bit more for it. But I guess my soul is into just helping people, and I enjoy it. And I think that's why I'm a volume tax preparer, because it doesn't bother me to deal with lots of peoples and personalities, and because I'm helping a lot of people and it feels good, right? So VITA felt good. You're helping tons of people in the VITA world. So like to do that in my own space, it doesn't bother me, but like it probably bothers some people because I'm helping people, right? I'm helping you get refunds, or even if you help, I'm helping you not owe next year, right? And I'm helping explaining and educating you. And I feel good about that. So yeah, it's good feeling.
Yeah, and that's definitely important to highlight. And I get on people and I say, I think all EAs, you have the authority to do representation, but you're there for that if your client needs it
Yeah,
within what you feel comfortable doing. But you feel obligated is not the right word, but you feel like the passion and pull to help with
yeah,
tax preparation.
I do.
You're happy. You kept saying, so I'm sustained. And I was thinking, Desmond, you go to other countries like that. You got a little bit more than just being sustained, but it's allowed you to build a life that you want.
Yeah, yeah.
You can disappear for 3 months and we'll be like, has anybody talked to Desmond? Maybe we'll see him at fly-in. I don't know. He's probably traveling.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. You got to get out, man. It's just something. It's not. It's just natural. I don't can't explain it. It's when I'm not working, I'm playing. Right. I'm outside as much as I can. And when I say outside, I'm outside the country. Right. I just want to go somewhere. I just got back from Greece last week. Matter of fact, which was hot as ever. I would say it was very, very, very hot and hilly. But yeah, I like to travel.
So, with all of the experience you had, I'm going to narrow it down to since you've been an EA. If there is anything that you can change in your journey of being an EA, what would that be?
So I will be honest and say I wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
But I'm gonna answer this in two ways. I wouldn't change anything because my beginnings is, I think, unique to most people that get into the business. I really enjoy VITA. I really enjoy helping people that need help. So when I started my business, I had that in my mindset of I was more in the business to help people than to make money, right? And as the years went along, I definitely changed my fee structure and charge more. But if I was to like answer this in a manner for new EAs in general, or what I would have done different, or what somebody probably should have done different, is charge differently, right? So I started
Uh,
off really charging low, and I think I undervalued myself early on. And if there was something that I could change, which I may not change it because of where I came from, that would be what I would change. I undervalued what I knew. And I think if I didn't do that, I probably would have stopped working my day job a lot sooner, right? Because I would have had a sustainable business. And I know it took me what the math is 18 years. Maybe it would have took me 8 to 9 years to kind of take the jump and then work full time. But my fee structure was so low, and I undervalued myself, and that would be something that if there was something to change, it would be that. But outside of that, I love the journey of being in VITA, starting a business that was on the backbone of VITA, helping people at an affordable rate, and growing in that manner. but it took me a little bit longer to just become Hudson Tax Services, the company by itself. So that would be something I would change. Maybe it sounds so mean to say this because I like VITA, but I would have charged more. That would be, I should have charged more early. And I would tell any person that gets into this business, know your worth, know your value, and don't be shy about it. I had like being in this industry, meeting people like you, and just people that I've met before you that was already in that mind frame of like knowing your worth and charging for it. It took me a while to get there. I knew I was good at what I was doing, but I was so conscious of my clients' needs versus what my value was, if that makes sense. So I was
Absolutely.
charging based off, oh, I don't want to charge people too much because they can't afford it. But it was kind of like, I'm providing a really, 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 really good service. I have very good credentials. I do a lot of studying and practice and hard work to become who I am. That's a value add that I'm really not being compensated for. So I think that was something that took me a while to learn that, and I have it now. But I wish I had that a good 15 years ago. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that insight because we have people who are in the business who are aspiring EAs, and your transparency there is definitely going to help somebody because, sometimes folks are like, well, I had to learn the hard way. They got to learn the hard way too. So,
yeah, like this is why you're doing this, though. I think first of all, sidebar. This is great because I'm pretty sure you're getting different perspectives of how people go about their journey, right? And I think
mhm.
if people watch the different interviews that you're having, they should be able to take some nuggets from every piece of it and become the enrolled agent. Because I didn't have you, right? I didn't have something to look at, especially a Black person, right? I didn't have somebody to look at to say, oh, this is an industry that people are in that look like me, and this is how they went about it. I just was freestyling it. So I applaud you for having this platform for folks, and this is powerful. I think it's really good. So hopefully you get people that come on and look at these videos and take some nuggets from it.
Thank you, Desmond. I appreciate that. Before we go, if people want to catch you online somewhere, where can they follow you on social media?
So I'll just say I don't have a social media presence. I mean, I have a Facebook page with my friends and family and colleagues that I just pop the crap with. But I do have a TikTok page, and I will just say I don't. I did a what's it called, a challenge. We did a challenge in January. So TikTok is at Mr. I Do Taxes, and you can get a feel of just the fun that I had with it. I also have an Instagram. It's Hudson Tax Services, so it's kind of the same videos on both. But I kind of did like a challenge for 30 days to just do content, and it was fun. And that's where the I Do Taxes very well kind of like came from organically because I literally just kept saying it, and it was like, you know what, I just made it a thing. But yeah, you'll get a sense of my personality, but also you'll get some really good um weed in the weeds content, understanding dependency and just some of the small things that I think people don't take too much time on. So I invite you to join my TikTok following and send me a message. I also respond to all my messages and that people send me. If I know it, I'll share it. If I don't, I can refer you to someone who do. So there you go.
Cool. So yeah, I'm going to encourage them to go join you on TikTok as well because some of the what we would consider the basics folks kind of skip over
Yeah,
because
they do.
on this path as enrolled agents, you don't necessarily have to take like college courses or have an
Mhm.
accounting degree, that type of thing. What Desmond is talking about with dependents, filing status, head of household, if
Yeah,
you're putting somebody, we have two people head of household, but they're married, living together, that's wrong.
right.
Don't be that tax professional that allows the clients to do that,
Right.
because then the client gets a letter and you're trying to look for me and Desmond because you're
Right.
like, oh shoot, I should have listened to them. So
Right.
again, on TikTok, that's Mr. I Do Taxes, Instagram, Hudson Tax Services. Um, Desmond, thank you again. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. We are averaging around 125 streams a week just on Spotify. So I 100% appreciate those of you that are tuning in every week, leaving the comments. If you were new and are unaware, if you're interested in starting your own EA firm, I want to invite you to join my email list at www.americasfavoriteea.com. I will see you all next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern.